Hey everybody, good morning. It is about 8 o'clock on this Saturday, the last day in June. I decided to come on here and do a live, quick, hopefully, topics on my mind video because, of course, I have my mom here and my nephew, my second youngest nephew, is here. So I wanted to do this video real quickly, kind of get out of the way a little bit, and give you guys my thoughts on a few things as well. So anyway, basically 4 main topics to get to. 4 main topics. And those topics are tariffs, Tariffs, Triffs, tariffs, I can't pronounce it right, but the tariffs and how they may affect multimedia in the future. 2, the second thing is making YouTube content when living with family and how to possibly work around it. 3, possible future TMNT crossover animated films. And 4, AEW, All Elite Wrestling, and WWE World Wrestling Entertainment going head-to-head on July 13th. And a few more items to talk about. So anyway, let's talk about this tariffs situation. It's basically how do I put this? Tariffs, from what I understand, are basically it's basically a name for foreign trade, if you know what I mean. Long story short, if I can just look something here, hold on for a second. Let's do something here. Hold on for a second. But tariffs, as they're called, basically are just another name for trades, if you will. Basically, when it comes to importing and exporting certain devices, electronics, stuff like that. Well, apparently, how do I put this? Hold on for a sec. Apparently, hold on. Apparently, what I'm trying to say is apparently there's some discussions going on between the U.S. and China. They've basically, as far as we know, have restarted talks for trades and all that. The question is exactly, why, basically why, why this is happening. And again, I don't know much about it. I'm just going by off what people like Pat the NES Punk and a few others have talked about. And basically, it sounds like if there isn't some kind of agreement put in place, that a lot of what China is responsible for distributing over to us could be at risk, and a lot of companies that have headquarters, warehouses over there that are responsible for creating the stuff that gets distributed could be in financial trouble, could be in big trouble, to the point that they may have to relocate into the U.S. or into other countries that are willing to work with the U.S. in a way that benefits all. Because the main people that pay the price about this is us, the consumers. I mean, I was listening to what Pat the NES Punk had to say in a clip from his CU podcast along with his friend Ian. And basically, a lot of the consoles that you can get at, I guess, decent prices now, or prices that if you have the money you could afford, could be upped in price if something isn't, put on the table. For example, a Nintendo Switch costs about what, $249 at most. If something is not put on the table, that the price range could jump to maybe $10, $15 more. So you could end up paying possibly not just 250, let's round it out, 250, you can end up paying 260 or 265. Same with the Xbox and the PlayStations, even the pros. The Xbox X is like $499 or $449. Imagine that jumping up to about $520 or $500 or $510. Same with the PlayStation Pro. It's listed at $349, between $349 and $399. Imagine that jumping up $20 more. A lot of these situations, including, this even includes some of the Hyperkin and at game, I wouldn't say third party, but retro consoles that they bring out. Those get priced at around between, I'd say, $20 to $70 at most. Or, okay, I'll put it this way, between $20 and $100 at most, depending on how much content is put into the device. So imagine those prices being raised up by $20 or $30 more. Nobody is going to appreciate that. Nobody will be happy about that. It's like, nobody will be happy about that unless they win the lottery or they get a big raise in their paycheck in the pay at work. It's going to be like, look, we got bills and rent to take care of. We can't really afford this kind of stuff. And that's what's going to happen. We want to be entertained, but it's not just, believe it or not, it's not just, gaming consoles and all that. I mean, what I use right here, this cost me about what, $349, $399 when I got it. Imagine this at its price right now being raised up to about $20, $30 more. It's like nobody's going to want to pay that. I mean, nobody's going to really want to pay that unless, they save up money to get it. I mean, some of the more elaborate laptops cost about $599 to $1,000. So imagine that $600 to $1,000 range jumping up by $20. See what I'm saying? And then you got, Blu-ray devices and 4K Ultra Blu-ray devices. And nowadays you also have the projectors that can, work within that. Imagine those jumping up by so much. People are, you talk about inflation in a big way that, people don't like. This would be, if something isn't agreed upon between China and the US very soon, you're pretty much looking at that. And a lot of companies are looking at relocating either to Asia or Japan or United Kingdom, or Philippines, wherever, or Mexico, maybe, wherever they feel they can basically get the best deal. And that's basically what it is, working out a strategy for the best financial deal. I mean, let's be honest. We know, with all due respect to this guy, we know Donald Trump does not really trust anybody that's not born and raised in the United States. We know that. We know that for a fact. We could see that. All due respect to our president, but we could see that. He's more distrusting of foreigners than the average person is. And that's than a regular person like myself or a Senate member or a mayor or a governor is. So, in fact, he's more distrusting of a foreigner than any other president I've seen or heard about. But the point is, it's, as far as in my opinion, that is, but the point is, we know how he feels. So him to try to work something out to where it's going to benefit the U.S. and China financially, it's going to be a big deal. I mean, because I want you to notice the pattern, if you will. I want you to notice this pattern. Then, depending on the country and its leaders, there always seems to be talks that get started, they get, get started, they get ixnayed, they get restarted, more so than they ever had with any other president that we've had, possibly with Trump being in charge. And again, all due respect to Trump, he's doing his job best as he could, depending on how you feel about the guy. The thing is, there have been more talks and everything restarted, canceled, ixnayed, whatever, because he doesn't trust foreigners more so than any other president we've had. And that's saying something. That is saying something. And look, I'm not trying to say that a deal won't be made. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, it just seems ironic that every time there are trade talks or whatever, or any kind of talks, peace talks, trade talks, whatever, ceasefires and all that, they always have to be restarted. There's always an issue. And it's all because of our president, like I said, in my opinion, doesn't really trust foreigners. No matter who, no matter whether or not that foreigner has had a reputation of America being able to trust them or not. He just doesn't trust them, period. And a lot of us may not agree with that, and that's our opinion. Heck, that's why a lot of people want him out of office right now. It's like, look, we can't just keep having a president that's like, oh, I'm not going to trust this person because he's from another, this individual because they're from another country and all that. No, we can't keep having that kind of stuff, because it's like, it's like literally, what's the point of having a leader if they don't put some trust in another country in the leadership? You know what I'm saying? So that's basically basically getting back on topic. That's kind of what this tariff situation is, or tariff situation is. If something's not worked out, a lot of people, mostly consumers, financially, are going to pay the price. I mean, let's say somebody has to get a new laptop, even if the laptop works, but they need it for their business. They need to expand their business. What's going to happen? I'll tell you what's going to happen. Trump, if something is not worked out, if something doesn't work out, we as a consumer are going to pay the price. So we just got to look at the fact that we just got to pray and hope that these trade talks are successful, that the restart of these trade talks are successful. Because honestly, if they're not successful, then there's no telling what could happen, honestly. Again, I'll put it this way: if you're a fan of multimedia entertainment, and you want to buy a movie, or you want to buy a streaming device, or you're finally venturing into the how do I put it? You're finally venturing into the 4K realm, believe it or not, like I'm going to try to plan to do eventually soon. If you're planning to do that, that's fine. But here's the problem. You're planning to go into that, you might end up paying a lot more than what you're looking at. I mean, honestly, the cheapest at my job for a 4K player is like $169. Imagine that being jumped up $20, $30. The most expensive one we have is about $179 or $199. Imagine again $30-something being added to that because a trade talks fail. There's no way of of these trade talks not succeeding. I mean, yes, there still could be a chance we'd still get our stuff imported, but it would be with a price at our expense, at China's expense, maybe globally, we don't know. But imagine you're a fan of that, a 4K. Imagine you're a fan of entertainment and you're venturing into 4K and you want to not just get a 4K player, but you want to get some movies to go with it. Movies for 4K sometimes cost around between cheapest would be like $17.95 to $29.95. So imagine that $17.95 and that $20.95, or that $29.95, I should say. Imagine that being upped by $30 or $10, $15. I'm just saying. You know, just imagine that happening. Because it could, if a trade is not met or agreed upon. But I'm just going by what I've heard other people like Pat the NES Punk say and a few others. But yeah, imagine something like, let's say this. This I think cost me about $29.95 because it's digital. Imagine me paying $30 more for this or $20 more, all because the trade talks failing. Something like this can go from $29.95 to $49.95. And that's what everybody's looking at. They don't want to see that unnecessary inflation. So anyway, next topic. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. Again, I'm going by what I've heard people talk about out and discuss, and just looking at from my own personal experience, spending on stuff to kind of enjoy myself, entertain myself. I could definitely see something like this going up a lot higher. I mean, something like this is done by ONN, ONN. That's the name of the company, ONN, ONN. Imagine this. It's like $9.95. Even if it's a Walmart associated brand that distributed this, it comes from China, right? I think you can see it comes from China. So imagine $9.95 jumping up to $29.95 for a home consumer brand. I'm just saying, would you want to pay that? No. And it's not just, electronics either. Imagine you want to buy a new car, and the car is in the payment, and right now payments would be decent, right? Imagine the total for the car. The advertised price is like what? 2001 is 2100 or 2100 or 2100. And the payments were like $199 a month, $200 a month. Imagine that inflating by 100. I'm just saying, that's what you could expect in a huge way. That's what you could definitely expect in a huge way, because of the fact that if something is not agreed upon, that potentially could happen. Vehicle transportation could be affected in a big way as well. All because negotiations broke down and there was nothing to be agreed upon, and the expense comes out of our pocket just to make sure we get the goods that we need, the essentials and stuff that we need for everyday life, work, whatever. So hopefully, God willing, things do work out, because again, like I said, just my own personal opinion, it seems that anytime these kind of things happen, it seems it's because our president, more so than any other president that I've known of, is more untrusting of foreign leaders in foreign countries than anybody else. But again, that's just my opinion. But again, like I said, that's just my opinion. All right. Next topic. Making YouTube content when living with family and how to possibly work around it. Okay, the reason I bring this up is because, as I said in my channel updates, during summer, spring, and winter breaks, my mom is off work. She's a school teacher, a preschool teacher, so she opts to have the summer off, get a mental break and all that, spend time with family. So this also means that my nephews if they want to come over and spend the night or spend a few days. Now, what I'm doing right now is a good example of working around, of making YouTube content and working around the situation of living with family. Because of the fact that if I did this straight up in the day, there's a possibility I could get interrupted. You know what I'm saying? And nothing against that. It's just my family, members of my family, mostly my mom, and I love her, no doubt, don't understand the whole live streaming deal. You know, like when I would live stream my DCWA CAW Creator Wrestling League, there'll be times that I could be at the startup screen before a match. And, you know, if there's a friend of mine, Wild Hops, online that wonders, okay, what's going on? What happened? It's because I would have had to leave the room and either go take care of something, either take out the trash, get my dinner, whatever, which is okay. I have to do it. That's my job. But point is, my mom doesn't have an understanding of, oh, he's in the middle of something. I should wait until he's done. And I love my mom and all that. I do. But she has that tentacle. She doesn't really have a grasp for this kind of technology. I mean, she's getting it, but not on the levels that she should be getting it. You know what I'm saying? It's like she's not getting the idea. She doesn't, I mean, she understands it, she grasps it, but not as much as she should. And that's understandable because there's a lot of people that are like that. There are some people there are some customers I have at work, or that I deal with at work, I should say, that don't understand the technological stuff. I mean, they still take the cards, the credit card, the debit cards, or whatever, and they'll still try to slide it, even though it has a chip. And we have to explain you need to put the chip, and they're like, and they're like, oh, so you have to show them. There are some people, my mom's age, older, that don't understand self-checkout, and they need help with it. So we help them. There are some people, again, my mom's age, older, maybe a bit younger, that don't understand the new system of checkout with me, which is basically an associate, CSM, whatever, holding what's known as a palm device in their hand and checking you out like this, going click, click, click. And then on the other side is where you put your card in. So there are some people that don't understand that. There's a lot of things, a lot of technological aspects that people my mom's age, older, younger, or a bit younger, that they don't understand it. They don't quite grasp it because they've never dealt with it in their generation. That's why, you have to find opportunities. What was it? I think this past Sunday, I had a huge opportunity. I did like several videos. You all saw that. And I did them all during the day. And I'm thinking, my mom's going to be home at any time. She didn't come home until almost past midnight. You see what I'm saying? So I had tons of opportunity. I had a lot of opportunity. It was presented to me. Just like this past Tuesday, my mom had to go up to the Las Positas College in Livermore to take care of something that's going to help her out financially during the summer. I had basically about from 8:40 to about 2 o'clock, around 2 o'clock, I had about 5 hours to myself, and I did stuff. I did some videos, got stuff done. That's what you have. That basically is how I was able to make my YouTube content, and that's how, if you live with family, whether you're like me and maybe let's say you're married and you and your wife live with family and you both do a YouTube channel or something to make money, like a vlog or whatever, or you live or you're younger, you're about let's say my oldest nephew's age, but you still live with your family, and you, like I said, you have a YouTube channel and all that, you make money off it, and you need to make content. Basically, that's kind of the situation here. What I'm trying to say is, basically, you need to be able to make your content on your videos, your content, if you will, uninterrupted. And that's basically what I'm doing. I'm finding opportunities. Late at night, early in the morning, I find opportunities. Yeah, does it make me tired later on? Sometimes, yes. But the thing is, to me, it's worth it because at least I'm doing something I enjoy, but I'm finding a way to work around it. So if you have a YouTube channel and you do live streams and all that, the best thing to do, especially if you live with family, is to work around it to where you either find the opportunity, you either capitalize on opportunities that get presented to you, or you wake up early in the morning, or you stay up until a certain part at night, late at night, and you do your content. You get it done with. That's the way I've been doing it, and that's my suggestion to anybody. If you're making YouTube content and you're living with family, find the ways to do it. Wake up early in the morning between, I would say, 6 and 8, or earliest maybe being 5:30 and 8. If you got nothing to do, if you're off work or whatever, and let's say your family works or whatever, or they're still asleep, there's your opportunity. Late at night, I would say between 10 and midnight, or the latest being 10 and 1. That way you can make sure maybe your family's asleep on the couch or they went to bed. There you go. Or if there's something comes up and they have to go take care of something, and you're stuck at home, there you go too. So just to me, when you live with family and you're making YouTube content, especially if you're monetizing your channel and making money off it, always look for open door opportunities. That's the way I look at it. That's how I do it. Do it so you don't get interrupted. That's just my thoughts. Anyway, number 3. Let's move on to the third thing here. I mean, this also explains why sometimes I get a little quiet at times, because, if they get up, anything. All right, let's talk about the third thing here. Possible future TMNT crossover animated films. Now, there's a channel I recently subscribed to called The Old Turtle Den. And they recently did a video because of the recent release of Batman vs. Ninja Turtles, which I did finally get on Blu-ray. And basically, they discussed a couple of ideas of what they would like to see. Like one of the crossovers they would like to see is Ninja Turtles with Ghostbusters, because IDW did a comic. There's a possibility they want to see an animated crossover with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and TMNT. And because both are owned by Nickelodeon and both comics are distributed by IDW, as far as I know. But the question is, what other crossover, possible future crossovers can they do? Well, I am in agreement with the two crossovers of Power Rangers and Ghostbusters. I think those are the given. But I think, honestly, probably the biggest one they should do, because if Hasbro's already capitalizing on this with Ghostbusters and Transformers and their releasing of an Ecto-1 Transformer, then I think, honestly, we should do it. I think the next animated, again, I agree with the Ghostbusters and the Power Ranger one, but I think the next one, another possible future animated crossover, should be TMNT and Transformers, mostly Transformers G1, or the IDW take on it. And the reason I say that is because you want to bring two properties together that kids, boys and girls are fans of. This is a way of doing it. This would probably be one of the biggest crossovers they can do, either in comic book form or animated. It's probably one of the biggest. I think another one, obviously, it's a given too. And IDW could definitely work out, and IDW doing the crossover with DC is really helping them out. But I think IDW should also do crossovers at Marvel. I think they've done them before. But in this case, do a crossover with X-Men and TMNT. That should be not just a comic book crossovers they should do, but they should also do it with in animated form. Because imagine the uniqueness. You have mutants teaming up with mutants, but mutants that look more human, with the exception of maybe Nightcrawler and Beast and a few others, but still, and Wolfsbane. But just imagine what could happen there. Another one, as silly as it may sound, and I think more so you'd want to work around with the the late 80s to mid 90s TMNT characters on this. And honestly, I think, crazy as it sounds, the 80s to 90s TMNT, or some kind of TMNT that's a representation of 80s, 90s, and 2012 to, I think, was it 2018 or 2017 totals, have a hybrid blend of totals like that, crossing over with Friendship is Magic or Equestria Girls. Imagine, listen to me, imagine how people would react to that. Two very popular properties, unlikely to crossing over in comic form and in animated form. That, to me, could get people talking. People would go nuts for that. There's no doubt. And then I think, of course, another crossover idea, honestly, just my opinion, is I do agree with the old Turtle Den channel when they say do another a forever movie. But I think what you do is, because a lot of people were critical about the first Turtles Forever movie, because they felt that the portrayal of the 80s to 90s Turtles was sacrilege, and they didn't like it. I think to make up for that, you just finally do a crossover where you bring in a proper version of those characters and work with that. And you don't just bring in them in the 2003 to 2009 Turtles. You also bring in the Mirage again. You also bring in the 2010s or 2012s version on Nickelodeon. You bring in the Rise. And then, to cap it off, you bring in whatever next incarnation of the Turtles we're going to get. So, Turtles Forever 2 should be the other crossover they work on. But yeah, those are just other possible future animated crossovers they should do, in my opinion. Whether or not they happen in comic book form, animated form, or both, that's up to IDW and up to Nickelodeon and whoever they decide to partner with. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about AEW and WWE going head-to-head on July 13th. Now, I talked about this recently in my video where I talked about Bischoff and Heyman being brought in as executive directors. Heyman for Raw, Bischoff for SmackDown. And the reason I bring up AEW, both companies going head-to-head on the 13th, is AEW already had the date slotted in for the Fight for the Fallen event. Fight for the Fallen is I guess it's basically a charitable event to basically, Fight for the Fallen is basically a charitable event to help the families of victims of gun violence, to raise money for them, or raise money for the families of victims of gun violence. This has been planned for a while. And everybody likes the idea that AEW is going to be part of this. It's going to help, raise the money and the funds for this charity. But recently, as of a couple of days ago, WWE decided to make the announcement that on July 13th, at the same time, it's not airing or happening at the same time, they're going to be broadcasting the first non-WWE event on their network, and that is Evlove Wrestling's 10th anniversary show, Evlove 131, or Evlove 131. And this has gotten a lot of people upset because it's like, they're not too, it's got some people and it's gotten the internet talking. because you have not just fans, but I think you have some people on the inside, including Kenny Omega, who is part of AEW, upset at the fact that WWE is deciding to go head to head with a charity event, a charity wrestling event that they're a part of because of the fact that basically, as a lot of people point out, WWE is indeed worried about AEW becoming a huge presence. And which is why they made the decisions they did for Heyman and Bischoff, why the deciding all of a sudden, hey, let's take our next NXT UK show and have it happen the same day as AEW's All Out pay-per-view, as well as now let's finally air a non-WWE wrestling promotions anniversary event at the same time and on the same day as AEW's event Fight for the Fallen. And again, nobody's really happy about this. Nobody's happy about what WWE is doing because of the fact that they feel, a lot of fans basically feel it's petty on WWE's part to do this because of the fact that it's pretty much showing, yeah, they're worried. They may play it off like they're not worried, but they are. So, yeah, AEW and WWE are going head to head on July 13th. Excuse me, if AEW does decide to air Fight for the Fallen on that day, then as much as I hate to say this, even though Evlove is celebrating the 10th anniversary and it's show 131 for them, fans are going to tune in more to AEW than Evlove. They'll wait to watch Evlove on replay, and they'll decide to go and watch AEW's Fight for the Fallen live just to stick it to WWE and teach them and try to, in their minds, teach them a lesson of, hey, you shouldn't be so petty that you're going to go up against a charitable event that's raising money for families of victims of gun violence. So, yeah, but anyway, long story short, this day, depending on how you look at it, whether you agree with the decision making or you don't, on WWE's end, it will be the first legitimate time before October. The first legitimate time that both companies will go head to head. And as much as I hate to say this, AEW, despite as good of a card as Evolve might have, AEW is going to win out. There's no doubt, because fans they'll watch Evolve's event, they'll watch it on replay, but if Fight for the Fallen is going to be streamed on B/R Live, Bleacher Report Live, then people are going to tune in for that more so than they're going to tune in for Fight for the they're going to tune in more for that live broadcast than the live broadcast of Evolve 131. So, yeah. Besides that, this is the first legitimate time, and maybe the first of many, that both companies are going to go head to head against each other. But again, like I said, WWE is getting a lot of slack, a lot of critical slack because of the fact that they're going up against a charity event. So yeah, that doesn't make WWE look good on their part, especially even if they're broadcasting a non-WWE promotion who is their own entity, but is partnered and associated with the company on their network. It's kind of basically shows a lot of pettiness on WWE's part. And and I'm not sure how Gabe Sapolsky or anybody else in Evolve feels about that, but I'm pretty sure it's like, well, I look at it this way. Gabe Sapolsky's probably thinking, well, it's not probably the best idea to do that, but you know what? It does give us more exposure and on a global scale. So, anyway, but both companies are going to go head to head on July 13th, and I believe AEW is going to win this out from a live broadcast perspective if they air Fight for the Fallen live over the live broadcast of Evolve 131, their 10th anniversary. So, but yeah, that's going to be happening. So if you're a wrestling fan, that'll be your first true taste of what the war is going to be like with both companies going head to head. But that's all I can say, guys. But that's really all I can say, guys. Just thought I'd come on here early and give you my live thoughts on these topics. And that's that's about it. So let me know what you guys all think. Thank you all for tuning in live, if you did, and then watching. I really appreciate that. And thank you all to those that are tuning in post live after it's been uploaded. Give me your thoughts down below on these topics that I've mentioned. What are your thoughts on the future? Like what would you like to see as possible future TMNT animated crossover films? Your thoughts on AEW and WWE going head to head, and who do you think will win out of that? Your thoughts on kind of making YouTube content while living with family and how working around it, and also your thoughts on the tariffs, the trade talks that could, if nothing comes out of it positively, could affect financially everybody's lives, especially if they want to buy certain products like gaming consoles, stuff like that. So let me know what you guys all think down below. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear from each and every one of you. And I will talk to you all later. God bless. Take care.